Hey, everybody. Hey, you had a little extra time to have some extra coffee. I hope everyone is fully caffeinated and ready. So welcome back. It's day 2 of Pendomonium, the product festival of the year. We hope everyone had a great first day and night, enjoyed all of the sessions, and of course, we hope you had some fun. But I have to say the fun has really just begun. We have such a full day ahead of us. Our speakers today just completely blow me away, and I think you will feel the same. You're going to hear from product and analytics leaders from such major industries as automotive, media, professional sports, and entertainment. To start this morning, you're going to hear from our first industry keynote speaker, Katie DeGraff, Senior Vice President of Product and Design at General Motors Insurance. Katie has one of the most unique roles in product today. Her team is looking at all the ways that hardware, software, and data intersect to create truly personalized experiences, unlock business value, and make the roads safer for each and every one of us behind the wheel. Following Katie's session, I'm going to come back out and let you know more about what's next. So please join me in welcoming Katie DeGraff to the stage.
Hello, thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm TP in Pendo. I am thrilled to be joining you today to talk about a new intersection in product development, and that is the intersection of hardware, software, design, and data. Because I believe this new, very complex intersection is leading to new product experiences as well as will really challenge the practice of product. Like many of you, I have spent the last several years of my career working on products that have increased in complexity year over year, each year getting a little bit more complicated, right? And like pretty much all of you in the product community, anytime I reach any sort of new challenge or new situation, I look external. I look out into the product community to find what's everybody else saying about this or doing about this? What are the frameworks and tools that other people are using to solve these problems? And I recently found myself in a situation where I couldn't quite find exactly what I was looking for. I couldn't find the conversations and the frameworks that I needed. So frankly, I came here today to talk to all of you about this intersection so that we can start to talk about and work on what does this mean for the product development practice. So what I'll do in this session is I'm really going to start with kind of laying the foundation of my experience and my background and give you some context on this problem space that I'm working on. Then I'll look at product management over time. What are tools and frameworks that we've used and how have they helped us solve problems over time so that we can then look forward to see, okay, what's coming next? And finally, I'll end with what have I done? What have I learned in this new complex intersection? What are some things I've learned to try to navigate this? What I hope you take away from this session is really probably challenging yourself to think about how do we extend frameworks and teamwork in order to achieve this new place, and how might my product need to evolve in order to meet these demands. Before I get started, I want to give this truck on this slide a moment. When it comes to the intersection of hardware, software, design, and data, I love me a good product, and this truck is a beautiful product. One of the perks of working at General Motors is that I do get to drive new and beautiful GM vehicles. This is my current company car. Right? Let's give it a moment. She's beautiful. This is a GMC Sierra 2500 HD AT4X with an AEV package. Right? It's got a 6.8 liter Duramax V8 engine. It has 975 pound-foot of torque, 475 horsepower, and by the way, I don't know what any of those words mean. But my husband and ChatGPT explained it to me, including how torque is measured and what it really means. But what I do know as a product person is that when I am in my home and I am looking up directions on Google Maps, on my phone or my desktop or my tablet, and I'm streaming my favorite podcasts on Spotify or audiobook on Audible, I know that when I walk up to this beautiful piece of machine, it greets me. First of all, it greets me with a GMC introduction. Then I get into this luxury vehicle, and my maps continue, my pods continue, and my books continue. That's what I know about this. So just a beautiful example as we start this conversation of that true intersection and what can be possible. All right, so let me get started again with my background so that you know the perspective from which I draw this talk. For many of you, your career path has allowed you to be inside of these companies and these communities where product management has really been embraced from the jump, from the beginning. That has not been my experience. I have been in larger, bigger industries that have been trying to take the best out of product management within this company's appetite for change, or this industry's appetite for change. I actually left college with a math degree, and get this, when I graduated with a math degree, I was told, good luck out there, little one with that math degree. Your options are, you can be an accountant, you could be an actuary, or you could be a teacher. That's it. Those were my options. I did start with teaching. I realized not everybody, and in particular kids, don't love math. All right, that really didn't make any sense to me, so I looked for a new home. And I ended up finding this home within the insurance industry. The insurance industry is an OG, big data industry. My career in particular, I've been on the personal side of insurance, so by that I mean things like home and auto insurance. But yeah, really rooted, grounded. They've been investing in understanding and use of data for really decades or perhaps a century. So there I really honed my skills in data manipulation, data analysis, and really making sense and use of data. The insurance industry is also highly regulated, so learned a lot about regulations, living within those, and the operations within this very mature industry, pretty dialed in, pretty massive. So from my experience within those large insurance companies, product management was really just math, and bringing algorithms to market in a compliant manner. If you did that, you got your algo out into market, you were producting. Good job. All right, so then I took that expertise and I redirected it into B2B risk management. So here, data's getting better, tools and software are getting better. Here I was really focused on the development and use of machine learning tools in enterprise applications. So here I really learned so much about bringing enterprise tools to the market, and in particular, customer success, marketing, and sales. In a B2B risk management type of environment, product is measured by revenue. If you're bringing in revenue, you're probably producting. Good job. All right, so then redirected that experience into a B2B2C full stack tech company. And here we were building customer apps as well as aftermarket hardware to really understand risk on the road. So at that point, we're really ingesting and processing massive obscene amounts of data and trying to wrangle it and make sense of it so that we could provide value back to companies as well as customers so that we could create the incentives and experiences to make our roads safer. At this time period, I was really starting to just dip my toe into what it means to also include hardware in the product development lifecycle. Here at this point, this company, we had a really different operating structure, some opportunity, some space to really rethink how we operated. So here, product management was true, full Marty Kagan style, really doing the best that we could do. Still, of course, like all of you, I'm sure, highly influenced by Marty. We actually call him Uncle Marty on my team today. All right, so that brings me to General Motors, where I'm working on B2C new product development. And here, my problem to be solved, my space, is really that combination of really complex hardware, right? The hardware in this case is the car, which is the main value proposition for the customer, right? This big piece of technology. Also, there's a lot of software that happens in the vehicle and outside of the vehicle to impact that vehicle experience. Modern cars today generate a ton of data to help with vehicle operations and performance. And within this vehicle experience, there's a pretty complex experience chain. There's so much that the customer is going through to experience this product, sometimes with the brand, so with GMC, Buick, Cadillac, and Chevy themselves, sometimes out of the brand. That could be through their dealer, through which they purchase the vehicle, or, like I mentioned, the Google Apps or the Spotify, right? The things that are still coming in and out of the vehicle. So this really complex combination of problems to solve. In this case, I find myself that I feel like I'm being successful in my product development and outcomes when I can really nail alignment and execution. This is probably what I spend most of my energy on, is that alignment and execution. Now, before I move on, let me just one more time anchor you for context in this problem space that I'm trying to solve. So again, it all starts for the customer with this piece of hardware, this very complex piece of hardware. And cars today are quite prevalent in the United States. Over 275 million Americans own a vehicle. And they keep those vehicles for about 12 years. Then you've got the software piece. The software piece in the vehicle experience means the software to power the vehicle, the technology in the vehicle, as well as the software to provide that customer experience. So that is things like Android Automotive, the Google experience that allows me to continue my experience out of car and in car, right? So now I've got complex hardware, complex software, and by the way, these software architectures have to sustain the life cycle of that hardware ownership of 12 years, right? And the hardware changes over time. Customer expectations on software experiences change over time. Really complex combination of hardware, software configs. Then on top of that, you've got the experience of all these different brands. I've got my GMC. I also have my Android Automotive, my Google experience. I probably also have a loan or lease, could be through GM Financial. I also have my OnStar Advisor experience, right? I also have the Spotify experience I'm expecting to continue in and out of the vehicle, right? So it's a complex set of problems. And for me, over the last 15 years, I've been entirely motivated to build products that make our roads safer, to harness this understanding of what happens on our roads, package that back up to customers to figure out how do we get customers the right information and incentives to make our roads safer. So I'm trying to harness this complex chain to provide customers a mandatory financial services product, auto insurance, so that I can make the overall cost of owning a GM vehicle a little more affordable for the customer and make our roads safer, which contributes to GM's mission to achieve zero crashes. Very complex set of circumstances here, right? So again, I mentioned with my indirect background into product, I often look out into the community. And me trying to spend every day with all of this alignment and execution, I looked out to see what are other people saying about this complex set of problems. So before I go into what's coming next, let's take a step back and look at what have we done so far? How have our products and frameworks evolved over time? So kind of going back, starting here with the mid-90s. In the mid-90s, our primary problem to solve was agility. We needed to ship software faster, right? And in order to do that, we had one primary framework tool that we referenced during this time, and that was the Agile Manifesto. And the Agile Manifesto gave us a framework, a common language in order to really talk about flexibility and continuous iteration and speed to market, continuous feedback, right? So a great tool. Some of the products that came out during this time period were Google and iTunes. How do you like these OG logos? Pretty nice, right? That's fun. So it worked, right? During the Agile Manifesto, it did. It helped us ship software faster. So what came next? Well, now we're shipping software faster. Our primary problem to solve was competitive, right? Like, how do I make sure customers come to my experience instead of all these other software products that are available to them? And that's where we saw this marrying on of software and design and partnering together, right? So during this time period, we're trying to figure out how do we build the right things that customers actually like and they'll actually use. And so here, during this time period, we're really focused on understanding customer empathy, delight, motivation, engagement, right? Like really trying to understand what drives the customer and what we should work on. Some of the tools we use during this time period are still quite popular today, and they really popularized during this time period, was design thinking, jobs to be done. By the way, I have a requirement to make at least one Clayton Christensen reference a day, so I could check that off for today. So jobs to be done, Kano, the Moscow must-have, should-have, could-have model, and story mapping. Some of the products that came out during this time period were the Facebook, Spotify, and Netflix. So you can see, if you can remember back to the original Google and iTunes experiences, then you think about the Facebook, Spotify, and Netflix experience, you see how well these frameworks allowed us to build better products for customer experiences. Okay, so what came next? We're building software quickly. We know what customers like. Well, the next problem to solve was scale. And during this time period, scale was really driven by the ingestion of use of really complex data, right? So now we're layering on data. And if I could summarize this time period, it seems like you might say, okay, we can build software really quickly. We can build things that customers really like, but why are we doing this again? This time period was a lot of stakeholder alignment, probably harnessing all of these ideas now that we knew that we could do things, as well as metric alignment, getting a lot of key metrics aligned to ensure that we're building the right things and matching your product features to your actual needs. Some of the tools during this time period were the Value Proposition Canvas, Teresa Torres's Opportunity Solution Tree, the North Star, OKRs, right? So you kind of see this theme, right? The products during this time period, we've got Uber, so certainly a great example of a company who's bringing in, ingesting, and using really complex data. Nest, what a beautiful hardware, software data product that is. My second favorite, after that's Sierra, my second favorite product that is the combination of hardware, software, data, and experience is the Peloton. Any Pelotoners? Yeah, okay, good. Any Toon Days tribe? Okay. All right, I'm that annoying Peloton user for sure. So Peloton, just this beautiful example of the inclusion, the incorporation of all these practices. Okay, so what comes next? We've got the agility, we're building the right things, we know how to scale them. What comes next? It seems to be this next wave of products that are launching do include, we saw some of that hardware start to trickle in the last season. Now you see even more hardware. And some of the primary themes for current products coming into market are these true integrated experiences. And almost like invisible experiences, right? Where I'm seamlessly coming in and out of product experiences that I like. I would also say this seems to be a time period where we're really challenging our assumptions about how customers interact with products, looking at new form factors like the Meta glasses that came out in 2021, the foldable phone, ChatGPT, which through its voice prompts really changes how you interact with things like search, and the Apple Vision Pro. So you can see this sort of challenging of like, do we really need to keep interacting the way we historically have? So, and this feels similar to the problem I have, right? Where it's this combination of hardware, software, design, and data. So this is where I looked out to the community and I looked for, what are the frameworks? What are the frameworks that fit for this type of complex solution? But having found none, I also thought, okay, well, is this real? Is this just, does this really have staying power? Before I go build my roadmaps, I need to know what's coming next. And I think that's relevant for all of us in this room because, frankly, we're all in this together. If anybody in here builds product experiences that are faster for the customer, I also need to build product experiences that are faster, right? Customer experience is the unifying view, even though we all are in different practices and industries and companies with different types of products, right? If you build something predictive, I need to build something predictive. If I build something that's insanely simple to the customer, you need to as well, right? So are we all going here together? So again, looked back out to all the research to determine, is this really where we're going? And I landed on 3 themes that I think will drive the future of future products. This is my hypothesis based on this research. I really tried to challenge confirmation bias and look for what's actually driving. And I believe that we love our tech products, but down and in is limiting, and up and out is promising. We love our tech products, so going back to all of those frameworks that we used, they worked. Product management worked. You have all built beautiful things because the top 5 companies in the world are all tech companies, and that's really the only statement I need to make, right? You've got Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Google, and Amazon. We love our tech products. And the new interaction models, such as extending into subscriptions, that seems to be working as well, with US customers spending about $1,000 a year on subscriptions. Retention on the software products is very high, typically in the mid-80s. I think Spotify is about 85%, for example. And hardware retention is also very high. I think Apple retention is above 90% in terms of Apple hardware. But down and in is limiting. It seems like we're getting a little tired of being chained to small screens. The average US customer today spends about 4.5 hours per day on their phone. I will not ask you to turn to your partner and admit if you're over or under that number. I'm actually right at that number, which I was disappointed in, but anyway. But it also seems like the next generation of customers, teens, they're really not happy about how they're interacting with the world. There's a lot of surveys around this, even some books around it. But it seems like teens are really tired of this like hunting, pecking, doom scrolling, with over half of teens saying they're trying to do things to cut back on that obsession. And frankly, we've gotten acclimated to what's possible. Right? We've gotten acclimated to all of those product experience and the expectation that things are just going to keep getting better over time, right? So for example, can you guess how many clicks it takes to order a car? So an Uber or a Lyft, how many clicks do you think that takes? 5, 3, 4? I think it's 8. I open your phone, unlock the phone, open the app, confirm where you are, confirm where you're going, move the pin. What kind of car do you want? No, I don't want a subscription. Oh, I also had to pause in there to wait to log in, confirm, right? All right, it doesn't stop with my 8 clicks. What happens next? When I landed in Raleigh on Monday night around midnight, I called for my car, and it was 17 minutes away. So what did I do for 17 minutes? I stared at it. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Okay, that ability to track the car, not so cool anymore, but rather it's become this like obsessive, anxiety-inducing experience, right? So we've gotten acclimated to these products and we're ready to move on. But up and out is promising. Already I've mentioned how exciting it is for me when I'm listening to my podcast in my house. I get in my car and it keeps going, hands-free, effortless streaming. Also, LLMs are creating new compute capabilities, which allow us to really rethink interaction models. Ethan talked about this last night with the fact that most AI companies are working on agents. How can I do things for you? And finally, we've all heard that sitting is the new smoking, right? The same way we look back today and we say, I cannot believe that they used to smoke in airplanes and restaurants. I think future generations will look back and say, I cannot believe they used to just sit there, chained to hardware at their desk, and the implications that was having on their personal health as well as society. So, first question, are they here to stay? I believe they are. Is it with current hardware? Is it with new hardware? I don't know. It's probably a combination of both. I don't know, is it glasses? Is it pins? Is it some new tool? I am certainly, in terms of new technology, I am certainly not going to bet against Sam Altman and Johnny Ive, right? Who are said to be working on a piece of hardware to ease AI interaction. But our current hardware is also probably a gateway to this, right? Because today, your devices, and in particular, your phone, tablet, your car, these are already access to millions of customers. And that hardware turnover is long-tailed. It takes customers a while to change their decision on actual hardware. So for all of you, while you might not be at an OEM at an auto manufacturer where the development of the vehicle is right within the same company as the development of your software and products, it does mean this evolution, this change is occurring in terms of hardware interaction and expectations. All right, so I believe that the future is up and out, and our big opportunity is really in integrating them all. And for that, that means we need to be able to understand the customer, build them, provide them hardware they love, build them software that they love. So now my big problem is, okay, well, what are the frameworks and tools to help us solve this complex problem? Changing hardware, changing software, I need to build services. And again, couldn't find any tools, but I thought I would share with you what I did learn in this investigation. First, from a macro perspective, probably the best reference for this type of building these complex products is Tony Fadell. Tony Fadell, this is his book, Build. He built the iPhone, iPod, and Nest. Those are some beautiful hardware, software, data, and design combinations. What I learned from this Tony stalking or research is that it seems like he's always been able to build these teams together. It seems like the design of them was happening at about the same cycle. And in doing that, as the product builds in maturity and scale, it seems like having had that foundation of starting together, once it scales, that really seems to work. The teams can scale and still figure out how to integrate pretty well. I don't believe most of us have the luxury of actually doing that, building it from the ground up. And again, I believe that some of our current hardware solutions are part of the future. So some other things I learned in this sort of like macro research was it seems like other successful models have been companies who have a really pragmatic view about a multi-brand experience chain. So a really practical decision about what will I build and do And how will I partner with others to get there? And in this partnership, how do I create this clean integration so that it's clean and seamless for the customer? You've seen more and more of those examples, so that's a promising construct. The other thing that seems to be promising is in really addressing this in the org design perspective, and by that I mean really mirroring hardware and software org designs. So for example, you might have a team within your software team that's responsible for onboarding. You've got product design, engineering, data responsible, and then mirroring that same construct on the hardware side so that you at least know how to line up these teams. Where to go to. Where to go to is probably one of the biggest problems to solve. On a more tactical, micro level, some of the things that I've done to try to integrate all of these. Well, my first attempt was just to expand the traditional product team construct by including new functions. So if the traditional product team construct is product management, product design, and engineering, we also included data science and data engineering right on the team. And some of the benefits of that were certainly really incredible collaboration. Imagine solving your software engineering problem in parallel with your data engineering problem with design sitting there so that you achieve the outcome. Really great. And the development of the individuals on these teams was so beautiful. It really developed some really thoughtful, innovative team members across all of the functions. So that was a really neat outcome. Some of the challenges, or the deltas, things we would do differently, it was challenging for the junior staff, in particular in data science and data engineering. If they didn't already have the background in the function or practice, it was hard to get up to speed and develop there. And hardware was still disconnected, so we're still like knocking on the door to hardware and replanning with the consideration of what it would take from a hardware perspective. Which took me to attempt number 2, which was to align hardware, so not embed hardware, but rather align hardware. So here the idea was, okay, this hardware person will represent onto this product team the hardware capabilities from a backwards perspective as well as a roadmap perspective. And this hardware person will seek to understand what problems this product team is trying to solve so that they could reconcile what is actually possible. We also found we needed to extend some of our frameworks in this case. So here's our product canvas, and you can see the inclusion of, we had to actually write down and represent what were the hardware capabilities that are required in order to really complete this product or this feature. And probably most impactfully, we got a really good representation of what the true value and true market opportunity was, right? When we really sat there and talked about, okay, if you want to do this, the hardware must do this, and it's only available in this percentage of the population. But if you give up this, then we can make it available to millions more, and that sort of give and take was happening on a more practical, realistic level. Another example of extension of frameworks would be the importance difficulty matrix, and you might, with your importance difficulty matrix, you probably typically represent difficulty based on software engineering. Well, we may need to replicate that with hardware engineering or components of hardware engineering to really to get that intersection of like what's actually possible in order to achieve what is important. What we learned in this was that we did have better aligned outcomes, we had better planning. However, some of the challenges, planning is slower. It's a lot to put on that one pink person, that one hardware person to really represent all of hardware capabilities. And hardware is hard, y'all. That's not a joke. By the way, building a car, very hard. So it's still, it did slow down planning and still made it a little bit harder to get to those aligned outcomes. All right, so I do believe the future is up and out, and for all of us that means having this ability to really understand the customer, ensure that they have hardware they love and software they love, so that we can integrate these experiences into up and out experiences. I think in terms of that last bullet there, I would say for now, we probably need to keep iterating on how we practically integrate all of these functions, all of these intersections, until such time as perhaps one of you writes an article or publishes a framework to help us really navigate this space. Thank you so much.